Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 5, marking the halfway point of the course. And in this lesson we'll be learning about portrait photography and more about how to use the portrait mode on your iPhone. Let's get right into it. Portrait photography is the art of capturing the inherent character of your subject within a photograph. Before even taking a portrait photo, there are two things you have to consider: the subject's distance from the iPhone and the angle at which you're capturing them at. So as you're thinking about where to position your subject, make sure that they keep some distance from whatever you have in the background. So when you're shooting with portrait mode, the iPhone blurs out the background while keeping your subject in focus. But it only works well if the subject keeps some distance from the background. So if you position the person right next to the wall, the iPhone might not blur out the wall properly, and in that case you will not get the kind of results you're hoping for. The second thing to note about your subject is to get at their eye level, so that the camera can better distinguish between your subject and the background to blur it out. Now, portrait mode does not work for every photo. Your subject has to be between 2 and 8 feet away, and that's when the portrait mode will work. If you're too far away, the iPhone will tell you to get closer, and if you're too close, the iPhone will tell you to get further away. But when portrait mode is working, you'll see the words natural light at the bottom of the screen light up in yellow. That means your iPhone has successfully recognized the subject and it can separate the subject from the background to create the kind of photo that you're looking for. Another thing you'll see is that the iPhone automatically recognizes your subject, and when that happens, there's a rectangle around the face of your subject. This rectangle means that the focus is now set on the face, meaning their face will be perfectly sharp while everything else in the background will be blurred. If this doesn't happen for any reason, or if you want to be absolutely sure that the focus is correct, you can simply tap your finger on the face of your subject, and that way you'll be setting the focus there manually. So now I'm ready to take a shot. So I'll simply wait for the right moment when I have a nice composition, and I'll go ahead and press the shutter. And this is the kind of photo that I was able to take with portrait mode, and you'll see that the face of my subject is perfectly sharp while everything else is nice and blurred out, and this looks really great in portraits. Another thing that's great about portrait mode is that it comes with different portrait lighting options. So these options literally change the type of lighting that falls onto the face of your subject. Once you're inside portrait mode, at the bottom of the screen you'll see the words natural light, and that's actually one of the portrait lighting options. But as the name implies, natural light is just the kind of light you normally have, and it doesn't modify the lighting in any way. I take most of my portrait shots using natural light, and it gives me good results, but I want to quickly walk you through the other options so you know how these work. Studio light creates the kind of look you get in a photo studio, where the face of your subject is nicely illuminated by studio lights while the background is relatively dark. So with studio light, the face of your subject becomes brighter and it stands out against a darker background. The next option is called contour light, and this one's really interesting because it creates more three-dimensional look on the face of your subject. So with contour light, you get stronger shadows around the edge of your subject, and that can create a really interesting, really dramatic photo. Next up we have stage light, and stage light tries to simulate the kind of effect you'd get if you were taking a photo of someone being on their stage. This effect doesn't work so great most of the time, but for some portraits it can actually work really great as long as you have a darker background. And finally, stage light mono is just like stage light, except you're getting a black and white photo. And finally, the last thing that you should note is that you can actually change the effects of lighting and depth of field after the photo is already taken. By simply going over to the edit button, I can switch through all the different types of lighting, and I can see which one fits my subject best. Now this is actually a really useful feature because now all you have to worry about when actually taking the portrait photo is framing and composition, and you can leave the lighting part for after taking the photo. So after switching to the different lightings, I feel like I like contour light the best because it kind of accentuates the shadows and highlights of my subject. And what I can also do is head over to the F button with the F on it, and we can actually adjust the aperture, which controls the depth of field. Now, since we already covered this in a very early lesson, we should already know that when we increase the aperture number, the f-stop number, the depth of field becomes larger. And when we slide the slider to the left and decrease the f-stop number, the depth of field becomes more shallow, making the background more blurry. So here we can actually apply what we've learned in a very early lesson over onto our photos. And I actually like the flowers in the background, so I'm going to leave it at f4.5. Well, there you have it. That's everything you need to know about the portrait mode on your iPhone. Now get up and out of your seat and apply what you've learned today about the portrait setting on your iPhone to your photos today. You can grab a parent, sibling, friend, or even a pet and use what you've learned today about the portrait mode to take some amazing shots of your subject. Feel free to send them over to my Instagram, which I'll attach right here, and I'll feel more than happy to take a look at them. I'll see you in the next lesson. Have a great day.